Eliza Moore sits at her desk, staring at the screen as if it holds the answer to a question she never asked. The hum of the office around her feels distant, almost unreal. Her fingers hover over the keyboard, but the usual rhythm of typing is gone, replaced by a hollow panic that crawls up her spine. Moments ago, the HR director called her into the conference room. The words she hears now still echo in her mind. You've been accused of leaking confidential data to a competitor. Accused. Not suspected. Accused. Every syllable lands with the weight of a hammer. Eliza blinks, trying to process what she hears. Her pulse quickens. She wants to say it's a mistake, that someone is using her access, that she would never betray the company that gave her everything she has worked for. But the room is quiet, judgmental eyes hidden behind glass walls and corporate politeness, and no one moves to defend her. She feels exposed, as if all the years of work, of dedication, of sleepless nights, have vanished in an instant. Her mind races. Who would do this? She goes over the day in her head. She remembers staying late to finalize the quarterly reports, double-checking every figure, every entry. She remembers the brief moment she left her desk to get coffee, or to talk to a colleague. Could someone have slipped in during that time? She doesn't know. She never considered that anyone could be out to destroy her. Her hands tremble as she reaches for the chair. Her manager clears his throat, avoiding her eyes. Eliza, we have to follow protocol, he says, his voice tight. You're suspended until further notice. Suspended. The word feels foreign, alien, like a sentence she doesn't understand. The office feels colder now, the fluorescent lights too bright, too harsh, as if illuminating every secret she doesn't have. She wants to protest, to beg, to scream, but no sound escapes. She is trapped in the inevitability of the accusation. And then the door opens. A presence enters the room that shifts the air itself. Tall, composed, and commanding without effort, Ethan Blake, the CEO, steps inside. His charcoal suit is impeccable, his gaze precise, measuring every angle, every possibility. The room seems to contract, the tension thickening. Colleagues shift uncomfortably in their seats. The HR director stumbles over a word, and Eliza can hardly breathe. He looks at her and says nothing at first, just studies her, eyes dark and unreadable, as if weighing her very soul. Finally he speaks, his voice calm but firm, cutting through the suffocating silence. Leave us, he commands. The HR director and the rest of the staff shuffle out, leaving Eliza and Ethan alone. The sound of the city outside feels distant now, almost irrelevant, drowned out by the electric tension in the room. Ethan moves to the window, his back to her, hands in his pockets, watching the skyline flicker with lights that reflect the restless energy of the city below. After a long pause he turns. They think you did it, he says simply. No accusation, no judgment, just a statement. Eliza swallows hard. And you? She asks, her voice barely audible. He studies her for a moment, eyes narrowing slightly, and then shakes his head. I don't know yet. The uncertainty in his words is different from the certainty of the others. It does not offer comfort, yet it sparks a fragile thread of hope. She swallows again. I didn't leak anything, she says, her voice trembling despite her attempt at control. Someone used my access. I was at my desk the whole day, except for a few minutes I stepped away. He nods slowly, considering. You understand that from the board's perspective, you're an easy scapegoat. Visible enough to make it believable, low enough to sacrifice without consequence. His words are precise, calculated, and they strike her like a cold wind. She feels both exposed and oddly recognized. Then why are you here? She asks. Why not let them fire me? His gaze sharpens and he steps closer, his presence overwhelming yet strangely protective. Because if you're innocent, that means someone inside my company is trying to destroy it. And that makes you useful. The word hangs between them, useful. A strange mixture of danger and salvation. It stings, but it also keeps her alive in a way that nothing else does right now. Ethan straightens, taking a step back, his expression unreadable. You'll stay, he says. Your suspension is lifted effective immediately. You report directly to me. Every action, every project, every report, under my supervision. She blinks, speechless, trying to process the implications. Why me? She whispers. Because everyone deserves one chance to prove they are not who the world thinks they are. he replies. His gaze softens ever so slightly, almost imperceptibly, but it is enough to make her feel seen. Then his tone shifts colder, sharper. Make no mistake. If you're lying to me, I will know. And when I do, you won't just lose your job. Her throat tightens. And if I'm telling the truth? She barely dares to ask. A faint smile touches his lips. Then you owe me a night. The words reverberate through her mind. A night? What does he mean? Is this a test, a threat, something else? She tries to speak, but no words come. The sound of her own heartbeat fills the silence. And just like that, he is gone, leaving her standing in the emptiness of the conference room, the city lights casting shadows on the walls, the hum of the fluorescent lights suddenly deafening. The rest of the day passes like a blur. Colleagues glance at her with quiet suspicion, whispering behind hands in corners behind closed doors. Screens flicker with her name in office chats. The weight of accusation presses down on her chest. By evening, the office is almost empty, leaving only the steady hum of the air conditioning and the distant traffic below. Eliza sits at her desk, staring blankly at the screen, replaying the words over and over in her mind. You owe me a night. The phrase echoes like a riddle she cannot solve. She checks her phone. One message. From Ethan Blake. Time. 9:47 p.m. My place. 10:30. Don't be late. Her pulse quickens. She stares at it for several minutes, imagining all the possible scenarios, wondering what exactly she is walking into. Then, with a deep breath, she grabs her coat and leaves. The night air hits her like a shock. The city smells of rain and asphalt, neon lights reflecting in puddles, the occasional horn of a distant taxi breaking the silence. She walks briskly, her heels clicking against the pavement, mind racing with every possibility. She is terrified, intrigued, furious, and strangely exhilarated all at once. Arriving at the building, she hesitates, taking in the sleek glass structure before her. The door opens before she can ring the bell, and there he is, Ethan Blake, standing as if he owns the night itself. There are no guards, no assistants, just him. His presence fills the lobby, magnetic and commanding. He holds a glass of whiskey, the dim light catching the sharp angles of his face. You came, he says simply. She swallows, her throat tight. I didn't think I had much choice. His eyes glint with something she cannot name. Everyone has a choice, he replies, stepping aside to let her enter. The elevator glides silently upwards, the city lights stretching below like a living circuit of movement and color. In the apartment, everything is perfect and almost intimidating. Floor-to-ceiling windows show the city sprawled beneath them. The interior is modern, minimal, yet warm in a way that surprises her. Ethan pours a second glass of whiskey and hands it to her. Their fingers brush briefly. Electricity sparks in the contact. She doesn't drink. Why me? She asks, searching his face. He studies her silently. Because you didn't beg. You didn't cry. And when they accused you, you looked straight at me. People who lie look away. Her throat tightens. So this is some kind of test? She whispers. Consider it an interview, he says quietly, and the city outside continues to pulse, indifferent and infinite. Hours pass as they talk, and the tension slowly changes. He asks about her life, her choices, her dreams. She asks little about him, but everything she does elicits an answer that reveals more than he intends. She speaks of her childhood, of nights working multiple jobs to pay for school, of the father who left too soon, and the strength she forged in solitude. He listens. Truly listens. And then finally she asks, and you? Why do you care if I'm innocent? He leans back, eyes shadowed, voice low and steady. Once I trusted the wrong person. They cost me everything: money, reputation, people I believed in. I cannot make that mistake again. Silence stretches between them, heavy, intimate, and yet safe. Outside, distant thunder rumbles. Eliza sets down her glass. You said I owe you a night, she murmurs. Take it. He studies her, eyes dark, and the faintest smile flickers. She does not know what the night will bring, only that everything has changed. Eliza steps fully into the apartment, the door closing softly behind her, sealing them off from the city's noise. The space feels intimate yet grand, minimalistic but warm, every detail deliberate. She glances around, catching the shimmer of the lights against the polished surfaces, the faint scent of cedar and leather, and her heartbeat quickens. Ethan gestures toward the living area, motioning her to sit. She obeys, perching on the edge of the sofa as if bracing herself for a confrontation she does not yet understand. He remains standing tall and controlled, yet there is a subtle shift in his stance, a willingness to break the distance between them. He pours himself another glass of whiskey and slides it across the low table toward her. Their fingers brush lightly. Electric. The contact is brief, fleeting, but it sets her nerves on fire. She does not reach for it. She cannot yet. She is still suspended between fear and curiosity, between caution and desire. The first moments are thick with silence, each of them measuring the other, neither willing to yield. Finally, he breaks it. "Tell me about yourself," he says. "Not your resume, not your credentials. Tell me who you are." The words are simple, but they carry a weight, a depth that surprises her. It is not an interrogation, not really. It is something else. Something intimate. Eliza takes a breath. I don't know where to start," she says, her voice barely more than a whisper. She recounts the long nights she spent at university, the job she took to support herself, the empty apartments and borrowed textbooks. She speaks of her father leaving, of the silence that filled her childhood home, and the determination that drove her to build a life from nothing. Ethan listens. He does not interrupt, does not judge. He just watches, his gaze sharp yet soft, seeing her without pretense, without expectation. There is an intensity in his attention, a focus that unsettles her and fascinates her at the same time. For the first time since the accusation, she feels a thread of safety. He leans back in his chair, studying her in silence. "You are stronger than you think," he says finally. There is no condescension, only recognition. "And smarter. You didn't panic. You didn't try to hide. You faced them, even when everyone else turned away." She exhales slowly, unsure whether to feel proud or terrified. I just want to do my job," she murmurs. "I didn't do anything wrong. I want to fix this." He nods, a small smile tugging at the corners of his lips. "I know. That's why I brought you here. I need to know if you can be trusted, not just with the company but with me. Can I trust you to tell me the truth?" She hesitates. The truth. How much of it can she reveal? How much is safe? Her pulse hammers in her chest as she considers her options. "You can," she says finally, the words firm despite the trembling in her voice. "You can trust me." Ethan studies her face. His eyes narrow, thoughtful, calculating. "Good," he says. "Because I cannot afford mistakes. Not now. Not ever. Someone is trying to undermine everything I've built. And if I'm wrong about you..." His voice trails, the implication clear. Mistakes are costly. Too costly. She swallows hard, realizing that his assessment of her is not just professional. He is measuring her character, her resilience, her ability to stand under pressure. She feels exposed and exhilarated all at once. There is a raw honesty in this interaction that she has never experienced before, a sense of danger and trust intertwined. The night stretches on. They talk, sometimes in whispers, sometimes in bursts of laughter that surprise them both. She learns things about him, about the betrayals he has endured, the losses he has suffered, the careful walls he has built around himself. He shares no names, no personal details she can repeat, but the vulnerability is there, palpable. It is disarming. She finds herself drawn to it, to him, in a way she cannot articulate. Each glance, each measured movement, each subtle touch of a hand or lean of the body carries a weight of meaning. She feels herself unraveling thread by thread, yet not in fear. In a curious exhilaration, a fragile thrill of connection. He questions her not just about her life but her perspective, her reasoning, the way she thinks when pressed to her limits. She answers honestly, carefully, knowing that every word is being weighed. She realizes he is testing not just her integrity but her mind, her ability to navigate complexity and stress. And she finds herself responding not just with clarity, but with a strange, growing boldness. She is not used to this level of scrutiny, yet she rises to it, meeting his gaze without flinching. It is exhausting, exhilarating, terrifying, and intoxicating all at once. Hours pass like minutes. The city outside glows, indifferent and infinite. The lights of buildings stretch into the distance, a quiet witness to their conversation, to the tension, to the flicker of something unspoken between them. She notices the subtle ways he observes her. The tilt of her head, the way her hands fidget, the shift in her posture when she speaks of something painful or joyful. It is unnerving and magnetic. He notices everything, and in that attention she finds a strange solace. She does not know if it is admiration, curiosity, desire, or all three. She only knows that she is fully seen, truly seen, perhaps for the first time in her life. At some point, the conversation drifts to silence. Neither speaks, but the quiet is charged, filled with possibility. She feels the air thicken, a subtle shift in energy, as if the apartment itself holds its breath. Ethan moves slightly closer, and the proximity sends a jolt through her body. She is acutely aware of the heat of him, the intensity of his gaze, the calm assurance of his presence. He leans back just enough to maintain control, yet the tension is undeniable. "You're braver than most people I know," he says softly. "And you're stubborn." She manages a small laugh, nervously, feeling the corners of her mouth twitch upward. "I have to be," she admits. "I've had to survive on my own." His eyes soften, almost imperceptibly, and he nods, as if acknowledging the weight of her words, the strength required to live with such resilience. She shifts in her seat, suddenly aware of the intimacy of the moment, of the way the apartment's warm light paints his features, the soft shadows dancing across his face. The city beyond is alive, but it feels distant, irrelevant, secondary. Here in this room the night is theirs, charged with a silent promise. He studies her expression unreadable and finally says, "I needed to know if I could trust you." His voice is low, steady, sincere. She swallows, her throat dry. "And now?" she asks, barely audible. He steps closer, closing the distance without breaking it, and says quietly, "Now I just want you to be here. No tests, no games. Just stay." She feels a shiver run through her. A mixture of fear, anticipation, and something dangerously like desire. Her mind races, but she nods. Words are unnecessary. They sit together, the unspoken connection between them growing with every breath, every shared glance, every beat of the heart that seems louder in the quiet of the night. The first night together, they do not cross lines, do not speak of what might happen next. They simply exist in the same space, two people drawn together by circumstance, trust, and an electric tension that neither can deny. Each moment is a revelation, each gesture a subtle confession. They are cautious, aware of the danger that lingers beyond the walls, yet in this suspended time, they find something rare: understanding, recognition, and a fragile intimacy that promises more than either can yet define. When she finally stands to leave, the first hint of dawn brushing the skyline, he does not stop her. "You'll stay at the company," he says. "But from now on you report only to me." Her heart races. I understand," she whispers. Outside, the city wakes, oblivious to the night's events, but inside, a quiet bond has been forged, one that will shape everything to come. Eliza returns to the office the next morning with a mix of dread and determination knotting her stomach. The elevator doors open, and she steps into the familiar space that now feels alien, charged with whispers and stolen glances. Colleagues pretend not to stare, yet every step she takes seems louder than the last, each footfall echoing the silent accusation that lingers like a shadow over her. The air smells faintly of coffee and paper, but she barely notices. Her focus is on Ethan, on the knowledge that he watches, that his eyes will find her amid the fluorescent lights and hum of computers. Reporting directly to him changes everything. Suddenly, every task, every interaction is magnified, weighted with expectation and observation. She feels the weight of scrutiny pressing against her. Yet there is a strange exhilaration in it too. Surviving in this environment has always demanded precision, but now the stakes are personal as well as professional. Her first meeting with Ethan begins without preamble. He doesn't comment on the accusation or the whispers. Instead, he hands her a stack of reports and a tablet. "I want these analyzed by the end of the day," he says, his voice calm, measured, yet carrying a subtle undertone that brooks no argument. She nods, suppressing the instinct to apologize or justify herself. She sits at her desk, fingers flying over the keyboard, eyes scanning the numbers and graphs with practiced efficiency. Yet every so often, her gaze flickers toward him. He moves among the office like a shadow, silent, observing yet untouchable. The energy between them is taut, charged with unspoken words and mutual recognition. She is hyper-aware of his presence, of the way he leans slightly when he speaks to someone, the precise way his eyes track movement across the room. It is both intimidating and intoxicating. By mid-morning, the whispers have reached her ears, snippets of conversation carried just loud enough to sting. Blake favors her strange, isn't it? Do you think she really deserves it? Or is he playing some game? She bites back a retort, focusing instead on the work. Every spreadsheet, every report is a chance to prove her innocence, to show not just the office but herself that she belongs here. The pressure is relentless, but she thrives under it. Hours pass in a blur of analysis, data comparison, and meetings, each one a test of skill and patience. Ethan's occasional interventions are brief, precise, yet they leave her heart racing. A touch on the shoulder, a glance across the room, subtle but enough to send her pulse into overdrive. By afternoon, a pattern begins to emerge in the data she's reviewing, a subtle anomaly buried deep within the reports that hints at irregular activity. She leans closer, eyes narrowing, heart pounding with a mix of fear and hope. Could this be the clue that proves her innocence? The thought electrifies her. She gathers the files and approaches Ethan's office, knocking lightly. "Come in," he calls, voice neutral, betraying nothing. She steps inside, feeling the familiar tension coil in her chest. "I think I found something," she says, spreading the documents on his desk. He examines them quickly, his eyes scanning, calculating, noting every detail. "Interesting," he murmurs, the first sign of approval she's seen all day. "This could point to who set you up." Relief washes over her, but it is tempered by caution. They are still far from clarity, still navigating a minefield of deceit and suspicion. The day stretches on, and the professional closeness begins to crack the surface of their earlier night. Small gestures, subtle but loaded, slip through the cracks. A hand lingers slightly longer on a document than necessary. A meeting ends with a shared glance that speaks volumes. The office becomes a stage for unspoken communication, every interaction a dance of trust and restraint. Eliza feels it, the electric charge when he approaches, the pull of proximity that threatens to break the barriers she has maintained. She is drawn to him, yet wary, understanding that their professional entanglement complicates everything. The tension is palpable, a living thing that coils around her chest and refuses to loosen its grip. Later, a situation arises that tests both their trust and their composure. A senior manager questions one of her analyses, implying negligence, subtle enough to challenge her credibility without overt accusation. She feels the familiar surge of frustration and anger, but she suppresses it, drawing on every ounce of control she possesses. Ethan intervenes, his voice low, authoritative, cutting through the tension like a blade. "She's right. The data supports her conclusion," he says, his tone leaving no room for debate. Relief floods her, but it is mingled with something else. Gratitude, admiration, and the undeniable pull of the bond forming between them. He does not look at her with condescension or pity, only acknowledgement and recognition. And in that look, she senses the faintest spark of something more. Attraction, understanding, unspoken connection. The afternoon wanes into evening, the office lights dimming as the city outside transforms into a glittering landscape of possibilities. Eliza continues her work, but her mind drifts to the night before, to the unspoken intimacy and the closeness of their conversation. She recalls his gaze, the way he had watched her, the way he had seemed to measure every reaction. There is a strange thrill in the memory, a mixture of fear and anticipation, desire and caution. The professional boundaries blur slightly, becoming lines she is both afraid and eager to cross. Every movement, every glance shared across the office now carries a weight of meaning she cannot ignore. The air between them is charged, electric, and she knows that nothing will remain unchanged. By the time the office empties, Eliza finds herself lingering at her desk, reviewing the reports one last time. Ethan appears at her side without a sound. He leans against the edge of her desk, close enough that she can feel the warmth of his presence, the subtle intensity of his gaze. "You did well today," he says, voice low, intimate. She swallows, words catching in her throat. Thank you, she manages. His eyes hold hers for a long moment, unyielding, assessing. Yet something softer flickers beneath the surface. There's more at play here than you realize, he continues. The person who set you up is clever, careful, and dangerous. But you, he pauses, letting the weight of his words settle. You are capable. And I trust you. The simple declaration sends a jolt through her. A mixture of pride, relief, and something more complex she cannot yet name. It is a trust that carries responsibility, an invitation into a dangerous game that she cannot refuse. They leave the office together, descending in silence, the city lights sprawling endlessly beneath them. Outside, the air is crisp, the night alive with possibilities. Ethan walks beside her, not touching, but the proximity is intimate, a silent acknowledgement of the connection growing between them. The first step is discovering who betrayed you, he says quietly, almost to himself. The second is surviving the aftermath. She nods, understanding the weight of his words, the unspoken challenge. And beneath it all, a thread of anticipation pulses, weaving itself into every movement, every glance, every breath. They are allies now, bound by circumstance, necessity, and something undeniably personal. And Eliza feels it, the pull of the night, the tension that will not be ignored, the trust and desire that flicker like sparks in the darkness, promising more than either can yet define. Hours later, after a long night of reviewing files, discussing anomalies, and tracing digital footprints, they pause, exhaustion tempered by the intensity of the day. Ethan offers her a drink, and for the first time the professional mask slips. He sits beside her, the barrier between them thinning. Their hands brush, a fleeting contact that sets the nerves alight. Neither speaks of the night before, yet its shadow lingers, infusing every gesture with unspoken meaning. Eliza meets his gaze, the electricity between them undeniable. I never expected to be in this position, she murmurs. Neither did I, he replies. The words are simple, but the weight is heavy. They sit in silence, the hum of the city below a distant lullaby, both aware that the night has changed everything, that the tension between them is no longer merely professional. It is personal, urgent, impossible to ignore. As she finally rises to leave, the weight of the day settles on her shoulders. Ethan stands as well, meeting her gaze, his expression unreadable yet intense. Rest, he says softly. Tomorrow we continue. Together. She nods, heart racing, aware that their connection is more than circumstance, more than strategy, more than professional necessity. The night has drawn a line between what was and what will be. And as she steps out into the cool city air, the light stretching endlessly before her, she knows that nothing, no accusation, no whispering office, no hidden threat, will ever be the same again. The night has begun, and with it, a tension and trust that will shape every step to come. The office feels heavier now, charged with the whispers that follow Eliza like shadows. Every glance, every passing remark, carries a subtle accusation, even though she knows she has Ethan's trust. The irony is sharp. The same people who would have thrown her out without a second thought now watch her every move, waiting for a misstep. She sits at her desk, fingers flying over the keyboard, heart racing as she reviews reports and traces anomalies. Every task is amplified, every decision scrutinized, and yet there is a thrill in it, a sense that she is walking a tightrope above a pit of fire. She thrives under pressure, but the tension gnaws at her edges. The city outside pulses with life, oblivious to the quiet storm brewing within the office walls. Ethan enters the room without warning, and the atmosphere shifts instantly. He is calm, composed, yet there is a subtle intensity in the way he moves. She senses it even before he speaks. I want to review the files you found yesterday, he says, his voice low, steady, commanding attention without raising it. She nods, gathering the reports, feeling the familiar rush of adrenaline as she presents her findings. He examines them carefully, eyes scanning every line, every anomaly, every connection. There is pride in the way he studies her work, a quiet recognition of her skill, and yet she can feel the weight of responsibility pressing down on both of them. The closer they work together, the more entangled their lives become. Professional boundaries blur, replaced by a subtle intimacy neither acknowledges aloud. The day stretches on, filled with meetings, calls, and strategic planning. Each interaction with Ethan carries undercurrents of something unspoken. A hand lingers on a file, a shared glance lingers too long. A word chosen carefully weighted with double meaning. Eliza feels it in her chest, a pull she cannot ignore, a tension that coils tighter with every passing hour. She knows she is not alone in feeling it. The subtle energy between them is electric, impossible to ignore, but dangerous if revealed to the wrong eyes. Every colleague who passes by is a potential witness, every whisper a possible betrayal. Yet the closer she grows to him, the more clarity she finds in her own instincts, her own strengths, her own capacity to navigate both professional and personal peril. By mid-afternoon, a situation arises that threatens to unravel the fragile balance. A senior manager approaches, questioning the legitimacy of one of Eliza's reports. His tone is casual, almost innocuous, but the implication is clear. She feels a flash of frustration, a surge of anger that threatens to betray her composure. Ethan appears beside her, calm and controlled, and speaks with quiet authority, cutting through the tension like a blade. "She is correct," he says simply. The data supports her conclusion. Relief floods through her, but it is accompanied by something more subtle. Gratitude, admiration, and the growing recognition of the connection between them. His acknowledgement is not patronizing, not protective in the way she expected. It is affirming, recognizing her capability and resilience. The moment is brief, almost invisible, but it lingers, leaving a trace of warmth that threads through the remainder of the day. Later, Eliza returns to her desk, reviewing files with meticulous precision. She notices patterns emerging in the data, subtle anomalies that hint at manipulation beyond the obvious. Her pulse quickens as she pieces together the puzzle, her mind working in overdrive. Could this be the evidence they need to identify the person responsible for framing her? The thought electrifies her, the possibility of clearing her name fueling her focus. She gathers the relevant documents and approaches Ethan, who has been reviewing other aspects of the company's operations. His attention is fully on her presentation, yet there is a quiet, simmering intensity in his gaze that makes her heart race. "Good work," he murmurs, the first real sign of approval all day. Relief and pride surge through her, mingled with the subtle undercurrent of something deeper, more personal, that she cannot yet name. As the office empties and the city outside darkens, the tension between them becomes palpable. Their interactions are charged, every movement weighted with unspoken significance. He remains near her, not intruding but present, a constant reminder of the connection forged in the previous night. Each shared glance, each brief touch on a file, each proximity in the narrow space of the office feels electric. Eliza is acutely aware of it, yet she maintains her professionalism, balancing the pull of desire with the necessity of control. The line between professional collaboration and personal intimacy blurs, leaving a thin, fragile barrier that neither can fully acknowledge or cross without consequence. Eventually, Ethan gestures toward the city skyline, and they move to the windows, standing side by side. The night stretches below them, lights flickering like stars scattered across the concrete expanse. The world continues, oblivious to the tensions, betrayals, and subtle desires contained within the office walls. He speaks softly, almost to himself. "Tomorrow we pursue the trail together," he says. "We find the truth." Eliza nods, feeling the weight of his words, the responsibility he entrusts to her, the delicate trust that binds them. The night deepens, shadows stretching across the room, but the electric tension remains, a constant, simmering presence. Hours later, after reviewing reports and tracing digital footprints, they pause. Ethan sits beside her, the first hint of casual proximity, a physical closeness that was absent in the earlier hours of the day. Their hands brush lightly over the edge of a document, a fleeting charged contact that sets nerves alight. They do not speak of the night before, yet its memory infuses the space with a subtle intimacy. The air between them hums with potential, unspoken questions, and mutual recognition. Eliza meets his gaze, the intensity of his dark eyes drawing her in, challenging her, daring her to respond. She feels a thrill of anticipation, the tension of desire tempered by the unspoken rules that govern their world. Yet, beneath it all, the connection grows, undeniable, unstoppable, a thread woven from trust, shared purpose, and the magnetism of something far deeper than either expected. The evening ends with a quiet acknowledgement, a simple exchange of words that carries profound weight. Ethan's voice is low, sincere. "You've proven more than your skill today," he says. "You've proven your integrity, your resilience. I trust you." Her chest tightens, emotions conflicting, pride, relief, desire, and the awareness that this trust is both a gift and a burden. She nods, unable to find words that capture the complexity of what she feels. Outside, the city stretches endlessly, indifferent to the quiet drama unfolding in a corner office. But inside, the bond between them has strengthened, a delicate, electrified connection that promises both danger and possibility. As she prepares to leave, she feels the full weight of the day, of the office, of the constant scrutiny, and of the magnetic pull of Ethan Blake. He stands beside her, expression calm yet intense, and speaks softly. "Rest. Tomorrow we continue. Together." She nods, heart racing, aware that the night has changed everything, that the balance between professional obligation and personal desire has shifted irreversibly. The tension between them simmers, a silent current, shaping every word, every glance, every thought. The night has begun, and with it, a delicate, combustible mix of trust, suspicion, and longing that neither can ignore. Walking into the cool night air, Eliza senses the fragile web of intrigue, attraction, and professional duty that will dominate the coming days. The office behind her is quiet, but the whispers of suspicion linger, a reminder that every step must be measured, every action precise. Yet alongside that caution, there is exhilaration, the thrill of navigating the complex dance between survival, trust, and something that feels dangerously like desire. Her mind replays the moments of the day, the approval in his gaze, the subtle touches, the silent acknowledgement of their growing connection. She feels alive, aware in a way she hasn't been for years, aware of both the danger and the exhilaration that comes with proximity to someone who is both ally and enigma. As she reaches her apartment, she pauses, looking back toward the city skyline. The lights glimmer like promises she cannot fully decipher, and for a moment, she allows herself to imagine the possibilities. The night stretches ahead, full of questions, challenges, and unspoken desires. She knows that tomorrow will bring more scrutiny, more obstacles, more tension between her and the man who has come to dominate her thoughts as much as her professional life. Yet she feels ready. Stronger, sharper, more determined than ever. The day has forged a bond, tested trust, and revealed layers of character in both of them. The pull between them is undeniable, a force that promises to shape not just the coming days, but the trajectory of both their lives in ways neither can yet anticipate. The city hums softly below her window, indifferent to the stakes, the whispered suspicions, the hidden tension. But Eliza feels it all. The danger, the exhilaration, the fragile electric connection that lingers in every glance, every word, every thought. She closes her eyes, letting the night wash over her, and allows herself to feel something she has denied for too long. Anticipation, hope, and a deep, simmering desire that promises both peril and reward. The office, the accusations, the uncertainty, all of it fades into the background as she acknowledges the undeniable truth. Her life, her work, and her heart are now entangled with Ethan Blake in ways that cannot be undone, and the consequences, however unpredictable, will define everything to come. The morning light cuts through the blinds, casting long stripes across the office floor. Eliza sits at her desk, eyes scanning the files she's compiled, every line of data a thread in the tangled web of betrayal she is determined to unravel. The whispers of the office still follow her, but they no longer intimidate. Today is about clarity, about exposing the person who tried to destroy her. Her fingers hover over the keyboard, poised to act, and for the first time since the accusations began, she feels a sense of control, of purpose. She knows the game has changed. She knows the stakes are higher than ever, but she is ready. Ethan enters the room, the weight of his presence filling the space instantly. He moves with the same calm, deliberate precision that has always unnerved her. Yet today, there is a hint of urgency in his step. "What do you have?" he asks, voice low, controlled. She spreads the documents across his desk, watching him scan each page with intense focus. His eyes narrow slightly, noting every detail, every anomaly she has discovered. "It's him," she says finally, her voice steady. "The person behind the leak. It wasn't me." Ethan leans back, studying her face, searching for hesitation, for doubt. Finding none, he nods slowly. Good. Now we deal with him. The words are simple, but the power behind them is unmistakable. This is not just about clearing her name. This is about justice, about exposing the betrayal that has festered within the company walls. The day unfolds with a sense of controlled chaos. Meetings are called, digital footprints traced, conversations monitored. Eliza works alongside Ethan with a precision born of necessity, each action measured, deliberate, a coordinated attack on deception. They move through the office like a unit, silent, efficient, understanding each other without words. Every glance carries meaning. Every subtle gesture communicates strategy. The air between them is charged, tension and trust entwined, a delicate dance of professional collaboration that flirts dangerously with personal connection. She feels it in her chest, a mixture of adrenaline, pride, and something deeper, more intimate, that she cannot yet name. By late afternoon, the evidence is irrefutable. The trail leads directly to Ethan's deputy, a man who has been charming, competent, and outwardly loyal, yet whose ambition has driven him to undermine everything Ethan has built. Eliza feels a thrill of triumph, tempered by the gravity of the revelation. He thought he could manipulate everything, she says quietly, showing Ethan the final documents. He studies them, his face unreadable, then closes the folder with a soft snap. He underestimated both of us, he replies. The intensity in his eyes is magnetic, and she feels it like a current running through her. The deputy will face consequences, but for now the focus is on precision, on exposing the betrayal without alerting the rest of the company prematurely. Ethan summons the deputy to his office. Eliza watches from a discreet distance as the confrontation unfolds. Words are measured, accusations precise, evidence undeniable. The deputy tries to maintain composure, but his confidence falters under the weight of the proof. Ethan's presence is unwavering, commanding respect and fear simultaneously. Eliza feels a surge of vindication, a sense that justice is finally within reach. She also feels the undercurrent of something else, an unspoken acknowledgement of the bond between her and Ethan, forged through tension, trust, and the shared experience of navigating danger together. Once the deputy is escorted from the building, cleared of his position and stripped of authority, the office breathes a collective sigh of relief. Whispers subside, tension eases, and Eliza can finally allow herself a moment of reflection. She sits at her desk, the hum of computers and the faint murmur of colleagues around her, and realizes that the battle for her professional reputation is over. Yet, the day has revealed more than just the truth of her innocence. It has shown her the depth of her own strength, the sharpness of her mind under pressure, and the undeniable pull of the connection she shares with Ethan Blake. She feels a thrill, a nervous excitement at the thought of what comes next, both professionally and personally. Ethan approaches her desk, his presence as commanding as ever, yet today, there is a softness in his gaze that she has not seen before. "You did well," he says simply. The words are understated, but they carry weight, acknowledgement, and a subtle intimacy that sends a shiver down her spine. She nods, grateful yet cautious, aware that their professional partnership has now intertwined with something far more personal. His eyes search hers briefly, lingering, and she feels the electric tension coil tighter. "Thank you," she murmurs, realizing that words are insufficient to capture the mixture of relief, pride, and anticipation swirling within her. The office empties as the evening approaches, leaving them alone in the space that has borne witness to suspicion, tension, and now truth. The lights cast long shadows, the city outside glowing like a sea of possibility. Ethan moves closer, the subtle proximity filling the room with an energy that cannot be ignored. Their eyes meet, and for a moment, the professional barriers drop, replaced by a current of emotion, unspoken acknowledgement, and mutual understanding. He speaks softly, almost as if to himself, yet with the weight of intent. "The trust we've built, it's not just professional anymore." Her breath catches and she nods, words failing her in the presence of the intensity he projects. The air between them hums with tension, anticipation, and the promise of something neither has fully named yet. The moment stretches, delicate and charged, as if the office itself holds its breath. Eliza feels the pull of desire, tempered by caution, yet irresistible in its force. Every movement, every glance, every silent exchange carries weight. She recognizes the power dynamic at play, the risk of crossing lines, and yet she cannot deny the thrill that courses through her. Ethan's gaze holds her captive, assessing, understanding, and inviting simultaneously. The shared experience of navigating betrayal, danger, and truth has created a bond that is electric, undeniable, and fraught with possibility. The professional world outside may still judge, whisper, and speculate, but within these walls, a new understanding takes root, one that neither can ignore. Finally, Ethan speaks again, his voice low, deliberate, charged with intent. "Tonight, if you're willing, I want us to leave the office behind. Just for a while." His words are a question, an invitation, a test. Eliza feels a rush of adrenaline, a shiver of anticipation, and a surge of courage. She meets his gaze, steady now, resolved. "I'm willing," she says quietly, the simplicity of her response carrying weight, commitment, and acknowledgement of the trust between them. The tension between them shifts subtly, from professional to personal, from restrained to intimate, as they prepare to step into the night together, leaving behind the office, the whispers, and the shadows of suspicion. As they exit the building, the city stretches before them, alive and indifferent. Yet for Eliza and Ethan, the night is charged with possibility. Each step is deliberate, measured, yet full of anticipation. The memory of the day, of the evidence uncovered, of the betrayal exposed, hangs in the air, mingling with the tension, desire, and unspoken understanding that has grown between them. The night promises both respite and revelation, a space where they can explore the bond forged through danger, trust, and shared purpose. As they move through the city streets side by side, the electric current of connection hums between them, undeniable and intoxicating, setting the stage for a night that will change everything. They arrive at a secluded, upscale restaurant, a place chosen not for its grandeur but for its privacy. The lights are dim, the atmosphere intimate, and the city's noise fades into a soft background hum. They sit across from each other, sharing a meal neither truly tastes, caught up instead in the conversation, the shared glances, the subtle brush of fingers as they reach for utensils. Words are secondary to presence, to proximity, to the charged energy that flows silently between them. Each laugh, each thoughtful glance, each measured gesture builds tension, anticipation, and trust, layering the night with complexity and emotion. By the time the dessert plates are cleared, the night has taken on a life of its own, a space where the boundaries between professional and personal dissolve, leaving only two people bound by trust, desire, and a fragile electric intimacy. Returning to Ethan's penthouse, the atmosphere thickens with unspoken acknowledgement. The city sprawls beneath them, lights twinkling like distant stars, yet inside, the world narrows to the space they occupy. Words fail as gestures, glances, and the quiet hum of presence communicate everything. Eliza feels the pull, the tension, the thrill of proximity, and she knows that this night, this moment is transformative. It is no longer just about professional vindication or survival. It is about trust, desire, and the undeniable connection that has grown between them through trials, tension, and the shared pursuit of truth. And as they stand together side by side, the night becomes a promise of trust, passion, and the beginning of something neither expected, but both cannot resist. The city hums beneath them as Eliza steps into Ethan's penthouse once more, the night air already carrying a hint of early morning chill. The space is quiet, almost sacred, a sanctuary away from the chaos, the whispers, the office politics, and the danger that had shadowed her for weeks. She stands at the window for a moment, staring down at the glittering streets below, letting the adrenaline of the past days slowly settle. Every step, every decision, every whispered accusation has led here, to this fragile moment of clarity, trust, and something that feels like possibility. She turns and Ethan watches her, his expression calm but unreadable, a mask that has both protected and challenged her since the beginning. Yet tonight, there is a softness there, a warmth, a quiet acknowledgement that the battle is over, and something new begins. He steps closer, the subtle scent of cedar and leather filling the space between them. The tension is still there, electric and alive, but it has changed. No longer purely danger or suspicion. It is now anticipation, recognition, and desire tempered by trust. She feels it in her chest, a steady rhythm that matches his own measured breathing. They are aware of each other in a way that is impossible to ignore, the shared experiences of the past days binding them in invisible threads stronger than any office politics or corporate maneuvering. He extends a hand, not commanding, not testing, but offering, and she takes it, feeling the warmth and certainty in his touch, the unspoken promise of partnership beyond circumstance. The night stretches before them, the city lights painting patterns across the floor and walls. Words are minimal, they do not need them. They move through the apartment with ease, each action deliberate, yet casual. Pouring wine, adjusting a chair, setting a record to play softly in the background. Every gesture is imbued with intimacy, subtle yet profound, a language developed in stolen glances and quiet touches over long nights of strategy and tension. Eliza feels herself relax for the first time in weeks, the weight of suspicion lifting from her shoulders, replaced by the steady comfort of presence, of being understood, of being trusted. And with that trust comes a dangerous thrill, the pull of desire she has fought to deny but can no longer resist. He turns to her, the low light catching the angles of his face, highlighting the intensity of his dark eyes. "You've proven yourself," he says softly, voice carrying the weight of truth and acknowledgement. "Not just in the office but here with me." Her breath catches. She feels the gravity of his words, the sincerity, the danger, and the intimacy all at once. She starts, but words falter, insufficient to capture the storm of relief, pride, and longing within her. Ethan takes a step closer, closing the small distance between them, the subtle energy between their bodies now palpable, undeniable. He tilts his head, eyes dark and unreadable, yet inviting, challenging, and warm. The room feels smaller, the air thicker, charged with an energy that has been building for days, weeks, perhaps since the first whispered accusation, the first glance, the first night spent in shared vulnerability. Finally he reaches out, brushing a strand of hair from her face, a delicate gesture, intimate and bold at once. She does not pull away. Instead, she leans slightly into the touch, the electricity between them sparking with intensity. His hand lingers at her cheek, thumb tracing lightly, memorizing, acknowledging. She swallows, heart pounding, aware of every sensation, every nuance, the rhythm of tension and release that has defined their interactions since the beginning. "Are you certain?" he asks, voice low, careful, a hint of vulnerability threading through his usual control. She meets his gaze, steady, unwavering. "Yes," she replies simply, truthfully. "I trust you." The words hang in the air, heavy with meaning, charged with promise. They move closer together, the boundary between professional and personal finally dissolved. Every touch, every glance, every movement carries the weight of everything that has passed. The accusation, the danger, the nights of tension, the moments of vulnerability, the unspoken desire. It is a dance, careful, deliberate, yet electric and unrestrained in the emotional depth it conveys. Eliza feels a thrill, a release, a deep satisfaction in knowing that the fear, the uncertainty, and the tension have all led to this shared moment of acknowledgement and intimacy. It is a culmination, a beginning, a promise of something stronger, deeper, and more personal than either anticipated. Hours pass unnoticed as they explore the delicate new territory of connection. Words are sparse. Gestures, touches, and the simple act of presence communicate more than language ever could. Each action builds trust, each glance conveys understanding, each subtle movement confirms desire. The city outside continues its indifferent rhythm, but within the walls of the penthouse, time bends, stretches, and folds into an intimate, charged space that belongs only to them. Eliza feels alive, aware, and deeply attuned to Ethan's presence, every nerve ending responding to the electric tension and warmth between them. The past accusations and betrayals fade into a distant memory, replaced by clarity, mutual respect, and an undeniable attraction that promises more than fleeting connection. Later, they sit together on the sofa, side by side, a quiet comfort settling over them. The vulnerability of their earlier conversations blends seamlessly with the intensity of desire, forming a complex, thrilling intimacy that neither has fully named but both recognize. Ethan's hand brushes hers, a simple, tender gesture that carries more weight than any words could convey. She rests her head briefly on his shoulder, feeling the steady heartbeat beneath her ear, the warmth and safety mingling with the thrill of proximity. The tension has not disappeared. It has transformed into anticipation, understanding, and the promise of shared nights, shared trust, and shared vulnerability. As dawn begins to paint the skyline with faint hues of pink and gold, they remain together, quiet, connected, suspended between night and morning. The world beyond the windows continues its indifferent rhythm, but inside, a transformation has occurred. Professional barriers have been transcended, suspicion replaced with understanding, and desire now intertwined with respect and trust. Eliza feels the culmination of weeks of tension, danger, and uncertainty coalesce into a fragile, perfect equilibrium. Every glance, every touch, every heartbeat confirms the connection, the intimacy, and the promise that neither can, nor wishes to ignore. Ethan finally breaks the silence, his voice low, deliberate, and intimate. "This is just the beginning," he says. "For the company, for us, for everything we've been through." She meets his gaze, heart steady, mind clear, emotions aligned with the electricity of the moment. "I know," she replies softly, "and I'm ready." The simplicity of her words carries profound weight, acknowledgement of trust, commitment, and the promise of shared paths ahead. The night has transformed into dawn, and with it, a new chapter begins, one defined by truth, connection, desire, and an unspoken but undeniable bond. They rise together, moving to the windows, looking out over the city they both inhabit, separate yet intertwined. The world feels vast, alive, and full of possibility, yet in this shared space it is intimate, protective, and theirs alone. The tension of the past days has given way to trust, desire, and understanding, forging a foundation that promises both personal and professional fulfillment. Eliza feels it in every nerve, every heartbeat, every breath, a certainty that the night, with all its challenges and revelations, has led to something enduring, something profound and irrevocable. As the sun rises fully, spilling warm light across the room, Ethan takes her hand, their fingers interlacing naturally. The gesture is simple, yet loaded with significance, a declaration without words, a promise of partnership, trust, and something far deeper than either anticipated. Eliza meets his gaze, feeling the culmination of tension, fear, desire, and trust crystallize into clarity. The night has ended, but the bond forged within it persists, strong, electrified, and unbreakable. She smiles, faint but real, and for the first time in weeks, feels whole, understood, and seen. Together they step back from the windows, turning to face the city and each other, a quiet sense of completion settling between them. The office, the accusations, the betrayal, and the tension are behind them. Ahead lies possibility, intimacy, and the unfolding promise of something enduring. Their hands remain intertwined, fingers gripping firmly yet tenderly, a symbol of trust, desire, and commitment. The dawn bathes the penthouse in soft light, illuminating faces, features, and expressions that carry both relief and anticipation. They stand together, silent, connected, and ready to face whatever comes next, bound by trust, experience, and the electric intimacy that promises a future brighter than either could have imagined alone.